Alright guys, so I'm back with another video. In this video I'm going to be showing you guys the changes that I made and discussing them, going over them and all that. And then at the end I'll show you how to fix this stuff in here. So right now I actually don't have the breathing being applied over the top of this. That's something that I will push after I make this video and get it out there to you guys. By the time you are watching this, I'll have already made those fixes. So right here, these are the changes I brought over. This is what I'll be doing from here on out. Is I will be working on the development branch, and then I will be merging that with the master at the end of every week with the new changes that I've made. So that will allow me to keep keep track of versions and stuff like that. So it'll make it easier for me to talk to you guys about what I changed as well. So I overhauled the held object system. If I click on this, you'll see it says, well, let me just do it this way. If I press this little thing right here, it says held object overlay state. Enums were replaced with enums. That's supposed to say gameplay tags. They were replaced with gameplay tags, guys. Breathing animation reference frame was adjusted for even distribution of aim offset. I set it to frame 34. That seemed to work best actually for some weird reason. I'm not exactly sure. I didn't look into it too much, but linked anim layer framework was set up for pistol. Right, so actually I ended up setting it up for the rifle too later on down the line. So let me just go ahead and go over those changes first. So it'll take place on the character blueprint first, and under the DAO, the live retargeting, the held object settings, you'll see that we have this held object state right here, and then under here we have these two elements. These elements store a gameplay tag key and a value, which is an array, and that array holds a held object offset for that weapon, and it holds a live retargeting hand offset for data asset for both of those hands, given the current stance that they're in. I didn't know what else to name it, so I named it stance. So we have our states and our stances. A state would be like he's holding the pistol or the rifle or a bow or something like that. And then a stance would be like he's relaxed, he's ready, he's aiming, something of that nature. So that's a stance. These are all set via gameplay tags, and if we go to edit project settings, gameplay tags, you'll see I have a gameplay tag table list, and that is this right here. It's stored under blueprints, DAO data. That's where this table is. That stores those gameplay tags. And if we go to manage gameplay tags, you'll see the DAO, held object, stances, and states. So that pretty much sums that up. Let me just go ahead and exit out of all of that stuff, and I'll go to the event graph, and we'll start from there. So on the KD weapons, you'll notice that I replaced that enum one that I had there with a gameplay tag version. Does basically the same thing. If we go into the on rep notify for that, then you'll see that I am I'm getting the overlay data here, given the current state. Is he unarmed, default, unarmed fighting? Is he holding a pistol or a rifle? And then we get the current linked anim layer class for that, which is stored on the ST overlay data. And those are using gameplay tags as well. You'll see that has the pistol state, rifle state, and then they hold a linked anim class. And if we browse to those linked anim classes, you'll see they're right here. And so we have this ALI held object anim layer, which each class needs to implement. Each of these classes need to implement that, including the actual animation, the main animation blueprint. This one right here, it also uses it. And that is set under the class settings right here. So if you need a new one, all you have to do actually is duplicate one of these and then change whatever logic in there that you need. The reason why I did this is because linked anim layers do not support inheritance like what you would expect in a blueprint, where you can create functions and override those functions on the children to create custom logic for those specific functions. You can't do that with linked anim layer anim graphs, because anim graphs don't support that. So the best I could do is to have you duplicate it. And so there's very little logic in here that is actually duplicated between each of these. There's this that runs on the update, which is the tick. The reason why this isn't running on the blueprint thread safe update is because you cannot call blueprint interface functions from a thread safe function. You can't do that in a thread safe manner, and so it has to be called on the tick. That's why I'm handling this on the tick. Actually, I don't need to use a property access right here because it's not thread safe. So on the thread safe, the only thing I'm doing is I'm just fetching and caching the aim offset value for the pitch. And the reason why I do that from the blueprint thread safe is because when we start blending out of these animation layers right here, and I do have blend times on these animation layers, whenever we start blending out of this, then there's a little small window where this main blueprint is invalid. And so if we were to get this without fetching it, and we were to call it right here, then it would throw errors, which could possibly cause crashes in compiled builds. That's the reason why I didn't do that. So some of the other stuff that is being duplicated is this. It's just a really simple thing. It's returning a boolean whenever it's called, and that's being called from right here. So we're calling this to see if it's ready to aim. That prevents them from shooting while we're blending in to the aiming state. And so if you go to the overlay state here, you'll see the aim offset is handled right inside of here. I'm not handling it from that anymore. And if you go inside of here, you'll see we have these functions right here. And so if you go under the functions, you'll see we have these functions right here. These are also being shared between, or duplicated between them. But basically, in some situations, you might need to change this stuff inside of here. And so being able to duplicate this, it actually allows you to, it gives you more freedom to modify this logic on a per weapon basis. So I think that's a good thing, actually. You'll notice I forgot to hook this back up, this breathing, so I'll go ahead and hook that back up. It's on the aiming for both of them. I will push that later. But yeah, that's basically the rundown on that. There's not much else to explain as far as how that has changed. Everything else pretty much works exactly as before. It's just that we're handling this per weapon now, which allows the weapons themselves in the game to actually store a reference to what class they that needs to be loaded whenever they are equipped. And I did that because I plan on creating a held object system, and also I wanted to support other people's held object systems. So that makes it a little bit easier. I'll go over that stuff right here later. Give me 1 second. Oh, I think it's good. It was just my fry here. So yeah, we're still doing the same thing on the onRep. We're getting that. We're getting the current linked Anim layer. We're setting that. We're updating the IK retargeter settings inside of here. And we're getting all that data based off of gameplay tags now. And so if you select this, you'll see you can add entries here, and you can select which gameplay tag you want. That's how that works. Let me just undo that because I screwed it up. So yeah, that's how that works. And then we're getting the LR chain settings based off of what stance they're currently in, which is represented by a gameplay tag. And then at the end, if this live retargeted mesh reference is valid, then we'll call this update live retargeter settings blueprint interface on that game instance, which will pass in the chain settings to the, and I don't have it here, but the generic retargeter right here. And you'll see I'm actually printing out the path of this, and the reason why I'm printing out the path of it is actually because with the metahumans, I had them all in one blueprint, and so I had no way of really knowing which one was which, and there was a lot of them, and so I wanted to be able to see what the path was so I could easily navigate to where that stuff was. You see? That way I could adjust the settings easily. So that's why I did that. Looks like I did forget to clean up a little in here. So that basically explains all of that. Those are all the changes that I made inside of here. That's basically it. So these are set from the actual live retargeted classes. So if I go to a live retargeted character under blueprints, retargeted characters, and if I open up one of these and I go to class defaults and I collapse all and then expand the DAO and expand live retargeting and all this, you'll see this is where that stuff is. And if you browse to it, you'll see these belong to each of these characters, and they have their own settings. So I have one for the aiming and I have one for the ready. The reason why is because of anatomy differences and live retargeting and how things don't match up for each different state. You're going to need different offsets. That's just how it is. The only other way around that would probably be to have to retarget all of these animations and then manually adjust the way they hold things for each of those animations for each character. And that would be a lot more difficult than just using this method where we can just come in here and add offsets for that specific state. So that's basically the gist of it. They need to call their parent begin play, and the held object needs to be reparented to the live retargeted character, and then we need to set up their IK retargeter for that specific mesh. That's why I have the live retargeted mesh reference here, and we store this right here so that we can use it later from the parent. When we update that, it sets the IK retargeter on the animation, on the generic animation blueprint, and then it sets their initial live retargeting chain settings. So on the animation blueprint, you'll see that I refactored a bunch of stuff. This stuff is not thread safe, which is why I kept it on the update animation tick. All the other stuff that I was able to move over, I went ahead and moved over. The essential values and the update states, the update layering information, and the update DAO stuff, where I'm just caching these values. Should probably just remove that now. But yeah, so let me see. I reorganized this stuff right here. So linked anim layers can blend out, as I showed you before. Inside of here, if you select one of these, you'll see that we have blend settings, but they only support inertial blending, which is why I have a dead blend here. It's just a new version of inertialized blending. I moved to the on overlay update information right here to this right here. And actuality, I do not need that anymore. We're actually running it twice now, which doesn't make any sense. I don't think I need that. Let me see, maybe I'm having one of my moments here. No, works fine, okay. So yeah, ignore that, I'm gonna fix that. That was an oversight on my part. I'm no longer doing it from here. I moved it from right here over to the blueprint thread safe right here, but I forgot to take it off of this right here. That's all that was. The additive lean is applied right after the motion matching now. And the yaw aim offset is applied right here, and IK corrections right here after the default slot, where we are using gameplay tags, not enums anymore. And this is the weapon bone correction. This is the hand IK stuff. It disables or enables the hand IK. It lets you override it and disable it for some reason. There's various circumstances where you would need to do that. Everything else is basically the same. I just reorganized it. I moved this to the end. This stuff didn't need to be after it, so I just moved it. I rearranged it like this. And I think this looks a lot cleaner. So I think that basically covers all the major changes. I added a fallback, so if we're not in the pistol or the rifle state, or if we're not in a state that's listed right here, it'll load this one, and this is just a no layering. Everything is set to base. The weight is set to 0, meaning that it'll just skip over it. It won't even apply it, which means that this is actually pointless. I just put it to base, just so you would know, hey, this is going to be in base. And yeah, that basically covers all the major changes that I made. Yep, thread safe logic, linked anim layer logic. So now that I've done that, I did overlook one of the characters, so I'm gonna take this as an opportunity for those who want to. I want to let you see how we can fix this, because I overlooked this guy. As you'll see, his thumb is sticking inside of here. I'm going to show you guys how to fix this and how to offset the gun in his hand. So first off, what I like to do is I like to go into play mode, and you can press Shift F. You can go into the gun mode that you need, and then you can press Shift F1. Actually, you don't need to go into a gun initially. You just need to, let me just restart this, sorry. So let's say we're in this. I'm going to press Shift F1. I'm going to select the character. Then I'm going to eject. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say edit. That's going to open up his blueprint. Now I'm just going to stop it. I only needed to get in here, and now I need to set this stuff up. You'll see that this one doesn't have a reset button on it. That's because I never applied that, which was an oversight on my part. I can browse to this data asset right here. It'll take me to the folder it's in under the UEF5 rigs, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to select this right here. This is our held object data. It should be held object offset, but HOO would probably be a little confusing. So anyway, you'll see that this hasn't even been adjusted for the pistol. It didn't need to be adjusted for the pistol, but just for brevity's sake, I'm going to apply this. What I'm going to do actually is I'm going to close everything to the right of this. And I'm going to reopen this. And now with this selected, I'm going to press this back button here, and now you'll see that it has been applied. For the M4A1, that's going to be under here. Applied. So now we don't really need to worry about that anymore. We can apply, compile that and save it. I'm going to go ahead and play it. I'm going to draw the rifle. I'm just going to eject. And we're going to start adjusting this stuff. So I'm going to open up this data asset. And you'll see it's almost good, but his finger is sticking inside of there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower it in his hand. And it looks like that's actually sticking inside of his palm. So what I might do is add an offset right here on the Y, about 5 degrees. And I'm going to bring this out. Well, that's the wrong direction. So something like that. And that should be good. So I'm going to save that. And now that I've adjusted this, I'm going to come over into this other one. And you'll see he's holding this like up against his neck, which I don't like. So what I'm going to do is move it back and out. Like something like that. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make sure that the gun is straight up and down. It should be straight up and down. If it's a little crooked, it throws everything off whenever we start trying to configure the rotation of his hand so that it's pointing towards the center of the screen. And I always do the left hand the last. So I'm just gonna go back in and I'm gonna fire a few times, and you'll see that he's actually breathing, and that's going to screw stuff up. So I'm going to go into I need to go into the linked Anim layer for the rifle, this one right here. And if you go into this overlay state, go into the overlay stance, go into aiming, and then just bypass this right here, you'll see it screws it up. We have to change and then change back so that it reloads this because we compiled it. And now back over in here, you'll see that he's actually pretty accurate. His hand is not moving. And I'm going to shoot a couple of times. Expand my output log. This might take a second. What I normally do is I normally clear all this. So I'll clear this log so it doesn't slow my computer down. And then I'll shoot, and you'll see that we have these values here. I'm going to Control C this with the negative. And at the end of this, I'm going to say negative and paste. So negative negative is positive. We're doing the inverse of everything, so I always do it this way. Even if it's a positive, I say negative. And you'll see that's a lot closer to center. And you can do this several times. The reason why it's not 100% perfectly accurate is because the rotational offset of the rifle might be just slightly off, and that can lead to problems where you have to do this a few times in order to increase accuracy. The more up and down this is, the more straight this rifle is, how he's holding it, the easier this is to do. And you'll see that we've become a lot more accurate now. And I'm just going to stop there because I think that's enough degrees of freedom of accuracy. I don't think it needs to be any more accurate than that. It's a little overkill, to be honest. And now, no, I'm not going to hook that back up yet. I like to leave it off until I'm done. So back over here on this, we're going to go ahead and adjust this hand. We have to do this in local offset. Now later on I might try to come up with some algorithms for say, allow you to use a static offset that's forward and back, left and right, in relation to the mesh. And then after you've done that, what it'll do is it'll translate that into a local offset as you're applying it. I might do that later. And then with the static rotational offset, I might set up something where you can just shoot this a few times and it'll just automatically adjust it for you, the accuracy. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility, but for now this is how we have to do it in local space. So that's pretty accurate, but you'll see his fingers are kind of inside the gun. And the reason why is because of how he's holding his palm. And so what I might do is, not that, we're going to rotate it along the Z so that it's out a little bit more. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Now I'm going to save it. I'm just going to save all of that. And there you go. Now I didn't check this. Let's see if his hands are still on the weapon. It looks like this is a little offset. I'm not really sure what caused. It was probably just an oversight on my part. But I'll go ahead and show you how to do that. This is what I was talking about that right there, and why we need this for each state. It's just anatomy and how things get translated from one mesh to another. And this actually didn't have, yeah, it doesn't look like I actually adjusted this. This was copied from another one, and I just never, I must have completely skipped over it thinking I'd already done it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I had to do. You seen how easy that was. Not difficult. So, anyway. Now, this one still has the breathing applied to it. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. That's how it's done. I'm going to hook this back up now, compile it. And now you'll see that he's breathing, but he's still accurate. Now, the gun recoils, so if you just spray it, you'll see that because it's recoiling, it gets more inaccurate, which is actually accurate because that's what would happen in real life. Which means that if you're patient and you wait, you give it just a second between shots, then you'll be a lot more accurate. Yep. Anyway, guys, that's pretty much it. I'll see you in the next video.